to do and beer to drink.
Steve Austin got into wrestling in the late 80s, made about $25 a match. After a couple of years on the road, he signed with Ted Turner's WCW, but they never really saw any potential in him. Eventually, they fired Steve over the phone.
You were fired! Fired! Fired!
From there, Austin signed a deal with the WWE and came up with his name and character after seeing a documentary about a killer for hire. Austin's wife at the time made him a cup of tea and told him to drink it before it got stone cold. By the summer of '96, well, his career took off.
Talk about your Psalms, talk about John 3:16. Austin 3:16 says, I just whipped your ass.
That phrase made Austin a star. And then, August 1997, this happened.
Tombstone pile driver! Austin dropped right on his head!
Austin was accidentally dropped on his head. For a few moments, he couldn't move. Like, for real, he couldn't move. Eventually, he had to have surgery. He couldn't wrestle for nearly a year. But at the time, well, Austin kept going. And in 1998, he became a part of perhaps the biggest feud in wrestling history. Stone Cold versus WWE owner Vince McMahon. So Austin, the guy with the f*** you attitude, beat the hell out of his boss and got away with it. WWE's popularity exploded, and Stone Cold was the biggest name in wrestling. In March of '03, he wrestled his final match. Now, Mr. Cold is in a new movie called The Condemned.
We have a big problem.
There you go, the man's entire life and career in 90 seconds. And here he sits in front of us, Mr. Steve Austin, Stone Cold. How are you? How are things?
Doing good. That was a nice job. That was a great clip y'all put together.
Yeah,
I think I need a cigarette after seeing that. It was pretty nice.
What's it when you look back and see, you know, the last X amount of years of your life? What do you think?
I think I just had such a good time doing it. I think I've always been kind of lucky in life. I've screwed up plenty of times, but it always seems like I was in the right place at the right time for good things to happen. Mm-hmm. A lot of hard work went with it too, but just good times. And being Stone Cold Steve Austin in front of 20,000 people every night is just a blast. And now, you know, doing the movie thing now, whole different ball game, but just if you're in the entertainment business and that's what you do, it's a pretty good thing because It's not like having a real job. So I consider myself real fortunate.
Well, did you always think you were going to get into the movie business? Was wrestling just something that was going to get you here anyway?
No. My lifelong dream was to be a professional wrestler. That's what I wanted to do. Just from ever since when I first was changing channels, I saw wrestling on TV.
Who was your wrestler? I remember seeing Sergeant Slaughter, and that was when I was a kid, and I went, wow, I like that.
This was back in the day. I grew up in South Texas. I got Houston wrestling. I saw guys like Jake the Snake Roberts, Dusty Rhodes, guys like that come through, and there's something about it just glued me to the TV set. And that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I ended up doing. And then when I finally pretty much got near the end of the wrestling days, I had time to do something else. That's when I decided, hey, let's do the movie thing. But it wasn't my goal to be in the movies. It was to be a pro wrestler first.
When you were a pro wrestler, were people coming to you saying, hey, Steve, listen, why don't you get in the movies? Were they giving you roles? Did they try to make you something?
Well, I had a few offers to do certain things, and I did 13 episodes of Nash Bridges back in the day. They offered me a series the next year based on a character that I was playing, Jake Cage. But at the time, I still had wrestling in my blood. There was no comparison on the money end. I was making way too much in wrestling. I was, lucky to have that happen, but timing wasn't right. I think everything happens for a reason. I think timing is a big key in life, and the time is now, and here we are.
Bands make all their money touring and merchandise. Did you get the cut of the merchandise, the Austin 316 shirts?
Absolutely. You get you make your money in the ring, and your pay-per-views and all that stuff. But merchandise is a huge part of that, and I had a big cut of that. I don't know if guys these days are getting those same percentages. But that was a big part of the money I made, and I was very hands-on. Basically, I created every piece of merchandise that I sold, and that was something that I monitored and took care of because it was my baby. And I always wanted to sell a lot of merchandise because I almost got fired from WCW because they said I wasn't marketable. I ended up getting fired because I had an injury, and it took a long time to heal up. But every time I sold a T-shirt, to me, I got royalties off that, but the bigger part of that was saying, screw you, you said it wasn't marketable, now I'm proving you wrong.
Was that a big part of your life growing up too, that sort of, you know, you see a lot of kids like that you're never going to do anything with your life kind of kid, and you get pushed and pushed and pushed, and some kids don't do anything, they react one way, and other kids react and overcompensate in another, so you became this guy.
You know, I grew up in a middle-class family. We were never poor, we were never rich. We just always made ends meet. And my parents are the greatest folks in the world. They're still around. My dad just beat cancer. It's his 3rd year anniversary from beating cancer, chemo, radiation, all that stuff. Anything I did, they supported me with just positive encouragement. They never rode my ass and say, you got to do this, you got to do this. They let me do things my way. They let me make my mistakes. But the support was there. And my dad always told me, he said, Steve, if you're going to do something, do it right the first time so you don't have to come back and do it again. And that's kind of the approach that I've always taken into anything. I've done so many things where I wasn't the most talented person in the world trying to do that, but I'd outwork everybody so that I was the #1 guy. And that's what I did with wrestling.
Did you and your dad get along when you were young?
Well, absolutely. We did. You know, I have 3 brothers and a sister, but I have two brothers that I was actually born in Austin, Texas. My folks got a divorce at a young age. So the man that I call my dad now is actually my stepdad. But we don't use the word step in my family. We don't use half brother, half sister. I mean, we're just family. And so I was very close with my stepdad, and he's the greatest man I ever met in my life because he's a guy that married a beautiful woman, my mom, with 3 hell-raising kids, me and my 2 brothers. And I've always respected him so much for, you know, taking that responsibility because he's a better man than I can be, I think.
And I wonder if that relationship with your or with your father, that guy, helped make you the man that you are today.
I'd say absolutely yes.
You know, but was it an easy decision for you to make? Like, you know, kids kind of go their own way, and then they have to sort of realize, wait a minute, I probably want to be more like him.
Well, it was just, I think like I said, I've screwed up plenty of times, but always knowing, you know, that hard work, you know, determination, and you know, that's always going to take you places. You can have a lot of good intentions, you can have smarts, you can have talent, but the bottom line is hard work's going to beat all that any day of the week if you keep applying it.
You remember the first time when you know, your wrestling career really took off, when you kind of were able to look at your family and say, can you believe this?
You know, I never did that. I just, to me, everything just kind of happened, and then things just got hot, and people always ask me, he goes, well, did you ever expect it to be this big? And I didn't know what to expect. And it was just a good ride, but the way my folks brought me up, and it just, I don't try to be humble, that's just the way I am. They always taught me keep everything in perspective, and that's what I've done. I mean, when I got dropped on my head and almost paralyzed, and a few years later I had that surgery, and I was gone for 15 months. I'd been on top of the world and had it yanked from me, you know, so I know what it's like to be on top of the world and then go back down to nothing and then go back in and get it back. So you keep a level head. I mean, I can't stand when I see people with some success and they get a big head and they think they're better than everybody. You can't do that. If you're in the entertainment industry, you better take care of the people that take care of you. And that's the approach that I've always taken.
Well, I'd be lucky to get away with the fact that you're working in the entertainment industry. I want to talk more about the pile driver that injured you, but also this movie and some of the movie choices that you're about to make. Stick around. More with Mr. Steve Austin, Stone Cold, when the hour returns. You're back here on the hour. Mary Walsh is going to give us her best story ever, and it has to do with tackling somebody, which I'm sure Steve Austin knows an awful lot about. You know, in your bio, when we were bringing you in here, we played the infamous pile driver where Owen put you down, and you look finished. You watch that footage all the time, don't you?
And back in the day, I used to watch that over and over, and for a long time, I watched it, I don't know, 20 or 30 times a day, it seems. Just because it was hard to stay home. It was hard not to be on the road. It was hard not to be in the ring, doing what I love doing. And watching that over and over again helped me understand why I'm in the position I'm in now. And you know, I was able to get back in the ring and, you know, make it till 2000 before I finally had to have the neck, my C3-4 fused up. But that all healed up and it's all good now. But I still like to go back and watch that every now and then. And these days I watch it just to realize, as I said earlier, I think things always seem to work out for me for some reason. I consider myself real lucky. I consider myself a pretty tough guy, but on that day I was probably the luckiest guy in the world that I didn't get paralyzed. And it's something that it kind of, use the perspective word, keeps everything in perspective for me, helps me realize where I'm at.
Sure, and it's Owen Hart, right? And we all know what happened to Owen Hart.
Yeah, it was a bad deal.
You were buddies with him, right?
Oh yeah, everybody was. I mean, I was a guy that made everybody laugh. He was always the practical joker on the crew, and he was never in a bad mood. And I remember that night in Kansas City, and it was a very tragic day at the office, when that happened to Owen. And then I was wrestling the Undertaker in the main event, and all of a sudden we heard, hey, Owen just died in the ring. So it was a very, very bad deal.
Is it part of the reason why you want to get out? You get hurt enough and you say, I've done my bit here?
No, you know what? I think that anything I do, man, I have a very aggressive in-ring style, and I like to work at 120%. I figure if I went back, I could probably work at 99, 98%. That's not good enough. And if I did that, I could go back. I think I'd go right back to being on top. I know I would. I could make it for another 2 years solid, doing every shot, doing everything like it needs to be done. But you got to look 10, 15 years down the road. Finally, and I never have done it in my life. I'm at a point now where, hey, you got to look 10 or 15 years down the road. I want to live a long time because I like living, but I want to feel good while I'm doing it.
Sure.
And so you got to think about that. Well, the movies are an easier thing.
Well, you're making the movie now, and I obviously in the ring you're very confident. You know what you're doing. You know that stone cold character. And I wonder, did you have any insecurity when you decided, now I'm going to act in a film, and I don't have wrestling to fall back on now. This is my career. You
know what? The thing about it is, I didn't have any insecurities. I knew that I could do it, and I know that I'm going to improve. With The Condemned, I'm so proud of this movie. And it took 2 years to get this thing from when it first found me in Los Angeles to 11 total rewrites till we started filming in Australia. Had a wonderful director and a guy named Scott Wiper who rewrote it 8 times and directed. He was so meticulous, attention to detail, and organized. And I put my trust in the guy because he earned my trust. And I told him, I said, Scott, I've done a lot of TV, I've done a lot of things, but this is my first movie. I said, take care of me. He goes, don't worry, Steve, I will. And he did. So I'm excited about this movie coming out so people can see, what's on that screen. It's a hell of a movie. It's a great storyline, and I'm very proud of my performance. That being said, repetition makes you better at anything you do. I'm looking forward to more repetition. Do you need to, I want to know, like at a certain point, do you need to choose your roles differently? Are you going to reach that point where you don't want to be tight? Sure, it'd be great to be an action hero, but to be just an action hero, you're going to be just an action hero. You're going to be that guy that was in a wrestling ring and I'm making these kind of movies. Do you look down the road of your career and say, I'd like to be an actor more than just this? I kind of look at it a couple different ways. I figure, if I went on to make 50 action movies and they're all kick-ass action movies that people loved and I had fun making them, then that'd be a wonderful career. But if I got to do movies like Charles Bronson and Clint Eastwood and Steve McQueen and cool movies, well, that'd be great too. I think that at where I'm at in my life now, I want to make the decision to do good movies that I think my core fan base is going to enjoy, that suit me, the fan base that I hope to grow are going to like these movies. So you got to make smart decisions, especially in this game, because it's hard to get opportunities. Sure. Now you're a rancher, man. Are you going to have the Brokeback Mountain role in your life? Are you going to push yourself as an actor that way? There's a lot of things I'd like to push the envelope on, but I'd have to. If they offered me a part in that movie, I'd have to say no, thank you. There you go. Steve Austin, everybody. Stone Cold. Thank you very much, man. The film we're talking about is called The Condemned, and you can see The Condemned when it opens across this country in Canada, April the 27th. All right, so there you go. That's Steve's movie. Another movie to tell you about here called Young Triffy, directed by and starring one of Canada's great